Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another weekend edition of ESL Open Cup Asia number 221. I'm of course your ZvP, and I apologize for missing this tournament last week, but we have recovered for the most part. We have returned and we are ready for some new StarCraft action here. We're ready with a new patch, with a new map pool, and even with some returning fresh faces. Oh boy, I'm ready, I'm excited, because spawning in the top right hand corner of Ghost River LE, we have the blue Protoss player representing himself, currently teamless, deserving to be on a team. It is NightMare. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the returning ex-military Zerg player. There have been some, or as some people were suggesting or even stating in the chat, he has been streaming recently, he has been laddering recently, he has returned. It's the sexy boy himself, currently teamless, the red Zerg player. It is Rogue. Here we go again. Rogue has been missing in action for a year, for quite some time, but has recently finished up his military service, and it looks like he may be dipping his toes back into StarCraft. I say dipping back in because we have seen players attempt to return from the military. We've seen some succeed, we have seen others fail. Of course, in recent memory, TY did attempt to come back and had some middling success, but TY did already announce his retirement from StarCraft 2. So again, TY was unable to really bounce back the way he wanted to. We've seen some success stories like Hero and Classic and Gumiho. We've seen other players struggle and really take a little bit longer to really get into their stride. Stats comes to mind, where Stats has been back for a year and has been at the bottom of the pack, to be honest. Has been at the bottom of the pack for the past year, but has recently really come into his own, and Stats is finally coming back into form after a year of attempting to. And now we have Rogue dipping his toes back in, because you're never really gone, and it's great to see him back here. Hopefully the first of many ESL Open Cups for Rogue. For now, it is his first time back since 2022, for those that are curious. It has been quite some time, and for the time being, it is going to be a standard opener, hatch gas pool. We are forced to take the unnatural natural. Again, this was already a part of the meta when Rogue was still active. Again, Rogue, he only did go to the military in 2022, so this was very much so the meta back then. Back in 2022, I think that was just after the Void Ray nerf, or just as the Void Rays were coming out of fashion, as Hero was returning to the game, and as the advent of Blink Stalkers were really kind of shaping the meta in ZvP after the dark times that were had with the Void Ray openers. That was like 2020, 2021. Those were dark times. But now, though, adepts have arrived, and this is going to be quite a challenge and quite a test here for Rogue, because NightMare is a very solid player here. Even though NightMare is in the shadow of all these other Korean Protosses like Classic and like Hero, specifically Classic and Hero, I would say that NightMare is pretty comparable to Creator. I do think that NightMare is arguably top 3 Protoss in Korea, maybe top 4, again, kind of like vying for that spot with Creator, as they both have their strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, NightMare is going to be coming in as the favorite player, is what I will say. I mean, yes, Rogue is a world champion, true, and that is an accomplishment that NightMare never did achieve, but in current meta, in current StarCraft, I would rate NightMare a little bit higher, as all the adepts are going to be forced to be recalled back home. We are going to be going for the Stargate opener here as a result. It's going to be Stargate opener into Oracles, into a third base. But this is where I can talk a little bit about the map itself. We're loading into Ghost River, short rushes by ground, very short rushes by ground. Again, it's basically one screen here, one screen connecting the natural to the natural base. So not long at all. The Lings have already arrived. They do force a cancel here on the pylon. We were even able to kill both adepts. Very nice damage dealt here by Rogue, as he does get some value. He does trade efficiently. He doesn't delay the third, but he does disrupt it in some way. As NightMare, he's going to be able to get his third up and running, and now he is free to move out with his Oracles. Oracles are moving out. Lings are still just trying to find a way in, maybe picking up a probe wherever they can. Ooh, even threatening the natural. They go straight for the Adept, and the Adept is going to be falling. Yeah, Adept goes down. Again, very nice pick off. As we can see, the Lings, sure, they're not killing workers, they're not killing drones or probes even, but an attempt here or there can be worth it, definitely here. As NightMare is moving out, but only with 4 adepts. This is typically a 5 or even 6 adept push, so it has significantly less firepower here. Threatens a shade. Behind this, Rogue just going to be joining on up, going for an Evo chamber. This looks pretty standard, to be honest. This looks like +1 melee into a Ling Roach heavy composition. This looks pretty standard. From the side of Rogue, going to be able to pick off a couple of drones here. Up 2, 3, 4, 5 workers going to be going down. Oh my god. Did I say 5? I should say 9 and 10, 11 here, as it did have oracles coming in from behind. And we're pulling Rogue apart. And again, this is a bit of a skill check that NightMare is incorporating. The Adept and Oracle Harass is very commonplace in this meta. We've seen many players use this to their advantage. We've seen many players try and fail as well, as players like Solar, Dark, Cyril, Raynor, they've all gotten so good at defending against it. But here, 11 drone kills, 13 in total. That's not insignificant. That's a pretty big amount of damage here, and Rogue is going to be struggling. He does have to redrone. So Rogue is resaturating, does try to pick up a Stalker, but alas, to no avail, as, oh, very nice positioning. Oh, NightMare. Good. God, I'm dying a little bit. I'm still sick, I'm still under the weather. Unfortunately, I'm still not at 100%, but I'm getting there. I'm at like 90%, maybe 95%. I'm almost fully recovered. I'll do my best. But yeah, that was really nice moves that NightMare. He was able to lock down those Lings, able to shut most of them down. As Rogue is going to be threatening another run by. Meanwhile, across the map, we are back up to just under 3 base saturation. Adepts, once again, they threaten the shade, and it looks like we will not commit, thankfully. Rogue is trying to get his 4th base up and running. Now again, what is scary about Ghost River is not just the fact that we have a short rush distance by air and by ground as well. You can be very assertive. Looking at the gateway counts, we have 5 gateways, soon to be 7, so nothing major here, but it looks like regardless, we are going to be reinforcing across the map. 5, 6, 7 gates in total. This is going to be a timing with +1 and Blink Stalkers. I do really like this. This isn't the cleanest 3-base all-in out of NightMare, but because of his advantages, because NightMare has done so much damage already, he knows that he smells blood in the water. He smells blood in the water. He knows that Rogue, he is vulnerable. Queen gets picked off. Lings are trying to come in from behind. So far, good defense here out of NightMare. Shuts down some of these tumors, forces back the Overlords. Now we are massing Ling, Roach, Ravager, but only a handful of Roaches and Ravagers. We do pick up a pylon. 1 pylon goes down, but we still have a 2nd pylon to keep this up and running. We can reinforce. Again, Rogue threatening a dive. Does threaten to dive in. Alas, won't be able to. Yeah, we're keeping eyes on these Lings. NightMare forcing his way forward, but maybe we have taken too long from here. Again, we have a lot of Lings to work with now, and Ravagers. NightMare, this is taking some time to really get going. Oh, Biles will connect. Biles there out of Rogue. We do have another big warp in. Again, this push has been delayed from NightMare. Has been delayed. Rogue, he's got eyes on the would be 4th base. We see that NightMare, he's trying to expand, and Rogue is here to stop him. NightMare, he's in quite a bit of trouble here. Again, the longer it goes on, the better it is for Rogue, but Lings are going down. Files are barely avoided. Banelings, they do waddle in. Good reaction, though, out of NightMare. He does warp in defensively back at home. Only 4 probes go down. And we should be able to keep on pushing. Now, what's important is that Rogue has been able to retain his Ravagers. His Ravager count has been getting higher and higher over the course of this game. 1 Ravager gets picked off. Lings once again going for a counterattack. Yeah, it looks like we want to deny the 4th, and we will deny it. And this isn't looking too bad for Rogue, not gonna lie. Denies the 4th base once again. Lings, they do slip in. No shield battery, no overcharge. Yeah, NightMare, he has to force the issue. He has to commit. Good. Oh my god, the Biles! I was gonna say a good stasis trap here on the right hand side, but the Biles, they do connect. Despite that, we're getting on top of the Ravagers, we're getting on top of the Roaches. Where are the Lings? They're not here. They're not enough. And it looks like NightMare, he's barely breaking through. Boys are being pulled. We're getting 9 drone kills. Looks like 17 probes went down across the map. And Rogue, he's barely holding on. Again, this was a really shaky 3-base all-in out of NightMare. And as we saw, he didn't want it to be an all-in. But because of that, like, he didn't really have, again, the cleanest execution. Didn't have the gateways. He was delayed when it came to his reinforcements, when it came to his push. This is still a very close game. It's getting messy, Pap. It's getting messy. Once again, another link run by. This time, Oracles were kept back at home. Oracles are back home to defend. Likewise, NightMare moving out. He is moving out. Lings, they come in for a surround as well. Oh, we do collapse on top of some of these Stalkers. And you can see how well Lings can trade against this, especially with +2 melee. Yeah, and NightMare, he's running out of steam. Again, like, he just doesn't really have the economy to keep on going. He has no further tech. There are no Immortals, no Colossi, no Bay, no Storm. Just purely Blink Stalkers, not even Charge. NightMare, he's being outscaled. And Rogue, he is, yeah, running away with this for the most part. I say for the most part, Rogue still doesn't have an amazing economy, doesn't have an amazing drone count, so it's still looking quite close here, but NightMare cannot take a fight. Speaking of, Rogue, he pushes out. Oh. Oof. Has 6 drones go down. Rogue, he's down to 48 workers. He does have to resaturate these bases. NightMare, can he somehow come back in this game? Now, finally, we have a 4th base. Wait. Now we finally have a 4th base on the way, Charge on the way, Robo for eventually, I'm sure, Disruptor or Colossus production. Bailey's rolling in. Up. 4 probes across the map. But again, NightMare, he's finally transitioned again. This is all like, what, 5 minutes late? But it's finally on the way. Can NightMare stabilize? Again, because of the low drone count from Rogue, I think maybe NightMare can. I do want to believe that maybe we can. The gateway is going to be going down. NightMare dancing with the army again. Very vulnerable Stalkers here. At the same time, coming in for some harass. Where's the Spore? Uh-oh. No Spore, only 1 Queen. More drones getting picked off at the same time. Rogue, he wants to go. He wants to send it. Committing across the map. Moving on with everything. You have the Bailings. Oh, they get in. Big connections. 13 probes go down. That is all that Rogue needed. Cripples the economy once again. NightMare down to 49 probes. Again, Rogue's economy isn't the healthiest, but it's looking better than NightMare's. That's all that matters. It is looking better than NightMare. NightMare trying to blink back. Trying to get the hell out of here. Again, there are some really nice defensive positions here with all these ramps, with the choke points. Lings are trying to bust in as the main army is distracted. We do have a big Link counter attack here at the 4th base. We go straight for the shield battery. Shield battery goes down. Archons are finally amassing. Again, the low drone count here is concerning, or the low economy here of Rogue is concerning, as NightMare has a comparable economy here to the Zerg player. Despite the fact that the Zerg player has been left alone for quite some time, I would love to see a double expand. I would love to see just take as many bases as we can, join up to 80. Rogue is maxing out, but I'm a little bit surprised that we never started a hive. We never threw down infestation, but we're still on lair tech. Oh. Yeah, Rogue, he's staying on lair tech. Can he get away with it? Ooh, that's a kill, not a cancel. And that was a kill. At the same time, a Ling run by here, but we have Archons, we have an overcharge. We should hold on. 1 Archon goes down, but a good defense here from NightMare. He's going to be able to catch these Lings. Oh no. Bailings, they will not finish. And you can see that NightMare, he's maxing out. He's keeping up with the supply of Rogue, and I mentioned before, the worrisome thing here for Rogue is his low base count, his low drone count, and as a result, no hive tech. Finally, infestation bits on the way, but again, we could have been working on +3 upgrades. We could have been working with Hydra, Lurker, Viper. We could have teched up into a superior army long ago, but we never did. Rogue, he never felt like he had the freedom to do so, and now Rogue is in some trouble. The pendulum swings one way and then the other. Initially, Rogue, he defended very well against a 3-base all-in, but now, as the game progresses, it's getting harder and harder here for Rogue to really close it out. Again, it took him a little bit too long to actually take advantage of his economy, to take advantage of how desperate NightMare was. Rogue, he stayed on layer tech a little bit too long. Now we get the hive on the way. Transferring workers over. But NightMare, he's getting to his end game. Archons, Immortals. No Storm, at least, thankfully. There is no Storm. There are no there's no Disruptor production or Colossus production. No Robotics Bay. But this Protoss army is looking terrifying. Is looking terrifying as finally Rogue is taking another base. Meanwhile, we went into mass Oracle. Oh my god! How many Oracles is that? 6 Oracles in total. Very limited anti-air. We're getting 15 drone kills. Ooh, and we don't quite get the Spore Clutch Transfuse. Again, that costs us 2 Oracles, but 2 Oracles for 15 drones, well worth it here for the Protoss. Well worth it for NightMare. Second Robo's on the way. Do we have a Bay? Not yet. We do have the second Robo for just Mass Immortal. Yeah, NightMare is snowballing out of control. The soup does lie, and even though you can see that the army supplies are similar, one is of higher quality. You know, they aren't quite the same here. The quality of the army is just superior here for NightMare. Rogue's army is designed to trade. But if we can't trade out, if we can't remax, then Rogue is going to be in some trouble. Bottom left, that's a kill, not a cancel. Another hatchery goes down. Ling Runby tries to go in. We almost get a Robo. At the same time, main army's going to be clashing. Baileys, they just crash into Stalkers and Archons. Not good connections. The Lings are coming in first round, but again, that's what the Archons are for. The Lings, they melt. GG gets called. There's nothing left here for the Zerg, and NightMare bounces back and takes game number 1. Whew. GG. A solid, I mean, I was going to say a solid game there to NightMare. A solid comeback out of NightMare. What I will say is that I wasn't fond, if you remember winding it back to the start of this game, NightMare did go for a 3-base all-in. It was a 3-base 7-gate all-in with the delay on the 6th and 7th gateway, and I was not convinced. I was like, yo, this is looking a little bit shaky. This is looking a little bit haphazard. It's looking a little bit haphazard, and I wasn't too convinced by it, and we saw that it kind of fell on its face. It did fall on its face, and we saw that Rogue was able to defend beautifully and also make sure that NightMare wasn't able to take a 4th base. And from that moment, I was like, yo, Rogue, he's got this, right? He punishes NightMare. NightMare maybe being overconfident and not respecting Rogue enough. As a result, went for like a subpar 3-base all-in that failed. But from there, NightMare was able to turtle and able to take his 4th base and tech up. Unfortunately, in the aftermath of defending against the 3-base all-in, Rogue, it did look like he had a really hard time figuring out whether he wanted to go for his own all-in or try to tech up instead. He was doing a good job killing probes, if you remember, with Bailing Runbys, but he never got an infestation pit, never got a hive, never teched up into Hydras, was stuck on Ling main Road Ravager and was outscaled. And with that, we're getting into game number 2, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Golden Aura, we have our South Korean Protoss player, the Blue Protoss, leading the series 1-0. It is NightMare. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Zerg player. The ex-military returning player, currently teamless, dipping his toes back in. We'll see if he dives back into StarCraft. This might be the beginning of something special. It is Rogue. Again, Rogue having some moments of brilliance in that last game. I think more than anything, I want to praise Rogue's early to mid game. I think that's clearly where he was strongest and where he did thrive the most. Again, maybe Rogue just misreading the situation there, and it did feel like he was of two minds, where he was kind of thinking like, oh, I should try to kill and end the game here and now, but also he was expanding and droning up a little bit, and he needed to pick a lane. He needed to go for one or the other. Either just double down and go all in, or be greedier and drone up faster. And, you know, it's one of those things where in StarCraft you can't be indecisive like that. You can't walk that or go through that, go through the middle of the road like that. You have to commit. You have to commit. And as I cough my lungs out, we'll see if Rogue can bounce back here in game number 2. What I personally will say, though, about game 1 is that I'm impressed. I'm impressed by Rogue, definitely. He was able to hold his own, and at least based on what we saw, it did feel like NightMare was kind of skill-checking Rogue a little bit and maybe overconfident in game 1, and Rogue showing that, hey, you can't, you know, you can't play like this against me, right? You can't kind of throw whatever you want and see what sticks to the wall. Not against Rogue, as clearly he is better than that. So NightMare does have to take him seriously. You can't just try to freestyle on him, okay? No freestyling here. As Rogue is going to be taking his natural, saturating his bases. Meanwhile, back at home, NightMare, I imagine, is going to be going for a Stargate opener into a third base, into a standard game. Now, the 3-base all-in that NightMare had attempted in game 1, I don't expect to see it here in game number 2, especially as we saw it kind of fall on his face. I expect to see something a little bit more, maybe even defensive, and a little bit more turtly. Something more tech-heavy is what I'm getting at. Would not be surprised if NightMare goes into a +1 blink, into 4 gateways, into a 4th base, into like a 2nd robo, for example, into Colossus or Immortal production. Definitely something you can go for, especially on Golden Aura. Meanwhile, I guess my eyes are a little bit more on Rogue to see how hard he drones, how hard he commits, you know, where does he cut workers, how aggressive does he want to be. I'm really excited to see kind of the playstyle that Rogue is currently working with. So far, I've only seen one game. I've only seen one game as Lings are going to be forced back. 3rd base is being taken. This time, NightMare being a lot more conservative with his first 2 adepts. Just now moving out. If you remember, in game 1, he was a little more active with these adepts, and he lost them as a result. Did end up losing both adepts in game 1. Very early on. But now we're actually going for a bit of a 1-2 punch. We have 2 adepts from one end, we have 2 oracles from the other. We do commit to the shade. Oh, not the best positioning. These adepts, they're going to get surrounded. Yeah, the surround is real. Oracles, they try to threaten that 3rd base, but no, the queen is in position. The adepts go down, and we do defend against the oracles. Good defense here by Rogue. Again, NightMare maybe being a little bit too overconfident there, bleeding out his adepts. Behind this is a Twilight Council. There's a Forge. Forge was delayed. Bear that in mind. But I think that was a bit of an oversight. Not so sure that was necessarily intentional. Usually, if your Forge is delayed, it's because you throw down a faster gateways. But the gateways weren't thrown down earlier either. So NightMare just getting into his game, settling in. And the game is going to be calming down from here. Of course, NightMare is still going to be active with his oracles and with a handful of adepts as well. But this is some light aggression, some light harassment out of NightMare. So on Rogue here to minimize his losses. Remember, in game 1, he did lose 12 drones to this harass. We shall see. That's going to be shading in. Rogue so far keeping up. Oh, we do commit to the shade. I do think that was a bit of a mistake here, as yeah, the Adepts are going to be going down 2 for 2. Not the best trade for the Protoss. At the same time, Oracles, they get into the main base, getting an extra 3 drones, 5 in total. So far, it's been 9 dead workers for 4 Adepts. It's an okay trade overall. Still better for NightMare. As from here, we're taking our 3rd, we're getting into our we're taking our 4th base, and this is what I assumed is to go up to 4 gateways and get into a 4th base. We did get up to 6 gateways, so we're being a little bit safer here with the higher gateway count, but into a 4th nonetheless, and we spoke about taking up, there's the bay. The bay is on the way, and we may even work towards a 2nd robo as well for Colossus production. So basically, NightMare, he is being a little bit assertive here, but unlike the previous game, there is no proxy gateway. There's no reinforcing gateway, there's no warp-ins here. He's just moving out with his main army, he is transitioning back at home, he's not committed. And because he isn't committed, he has to be very careful with this army. Does have to babysit them. So far, clearing out a lot of creep. This is okay. Basically, NightMare, he's just dancing on the edge of creep, just taking down tumors, containing his opponents. He's not really looking to push into a base. Like, he shouldn't be pushing into the 4th or the 3rd. NightMare knows better. He's just skirting around the edge, keeping Rogue contained. And NightMare, he might even come across this would-be 5th. Oracles, they do scouts. They get eyes on the 5th base at the same time. Overseer does get into the main. And we have spotted the tech. We have gotten eyes on the tech there. We get a couple of drone kills, nothing too substantial. This Rogue is going to force us back. He's bleeding out a lot of lings, though. Yeah, that was 39 lings going down in total so far. And only 1 Stalker. A very efficient trade here by NightMare. Gets another tumor. See Rogue setting up for us around. Ooh, does catch the army. And NightMare flying too close to the sun. Bleeds out a couple extra Stalkers. Back at home, Colossi are on the way. I'm a little bit surprised that we only have 1 robo. Oh, there we go. I was like, do we only have 1 robo? 2nd robo is done. We're getting into double Colossus production. This will eventually lead into either Immortals or Disruptors. But remember, Rogue, he scouted. Earlier, he did see the bay. He started researching, so he knows that Colossi are coming. He knows that he needs a hive. And what does a hive give you? It grants you access to Vipers. Vipers are on the way. That is the answer to these high-tech units. Whether it is Disruptor or Colossi, both are vulnerable to abductions. So there's going to be a bit of a dance here. It's going to be the Vipers looking to yoink some of these units. At the same time, it's going to be NightMare looking to feed back those Vipers with his High Templar. Assuming he has High Templar, and he doesn't. Ooh, Templar Archive still on the way. This is a risky move out. Zealot Rabbi runs into Lings. Good trade here for NightMare. At the same time, he does come across the 6th base, and it is going to be a kill. Ooh, a kill, not a cancel. We've seen a lot of that here so far in this series. Delayed reactions out of NightMare. Sorry, out of Rogue. Bathing's rolling in. Vipers have arrived, but do we have enough to really punish these Colossi? We can get 1. 1 Colossus goes down, but we have 2 more behind this. And Rogue just doesn't have enough. Bleeds out his last Viper. Lings are coming in to reinforce, but we have Zealots. Yeah, we have Zealots to deal with everything here. Files do connect, but it doesn't even matter. And we're raining down on the base. 21 drones go down. We have Zealots on the right-hand side. We have the main army towards the left. A hatchery falls. And Rogue just cannot keep up. Again, he was being a little bit greedy, taking up into Ultras, and Ultras, they're not going to come into play. Just a little bit too greedy there. And it was unfortunate that all of his Lings were caught up by Zealots. Like, it was not the best trade. Another Colossus falls, but there's still 1 left over. GG gets called, and NightMare will take the series 2-0, advancing on to the next round. GG. GG, well played. NightMare, of course, coming in as the favored player, but I was more than happy to bear witness to Rogue. This is his first time returning after his military service. This is his first event back, and even though he lost here, I mean, we kind of expected NightMare to win, and I was just really curious to see kind of the level that Rogue was at. You know, it's been a very similar story with like Stats and Parting, for example, where they've also relatively recently returned, and it's always fun seeing kind of, or comparing them to other players and trying to see the trajectory of their improvement over time and kind of where they are at the moment. And yeah, Rogue wasn't looking too bad. Not looking too bad, still trying to make his way back in, and it's gonna take a couple of months before that really does come to pass, where he can really go toe-to-toe with the best of them. But I'm hoping he sticks with it. I'm hoping that Rogue does stick around and he does commit and he does look to improve and compete again. I hope so. I do hope so. Fingers crossed. There are examples of players returning from the military and doing so well. There are also examples of players returning from the military and retiring in the end and not quite finding the success that they were hoping for. So we'll see which one Rogue falls into, which kind of group of players he falls into there. We'll see, but definitely something to look forward to, and we do look forward to it. Meanwhile, NightMare advances on into the next round, where he has his next opponent ready and waiting. Up next, NightMare versus Bunny in a PvT. Let's go.